All right, hello, welcome everyone to this session of Build with Aurelia. My name is Roy and I'm a software developer here at the factory. And since we're hosting all these Aurelia meetups, we thought it would be nice to show you some of the cool stuff that we've been building here using this framework. So I'm really excited to show you our survey web application that we've built here. So let's get started. First, let me walk you through the agenda of this presentation. So I'll start by giving you some background on eFactory, what we do here as a company, and some background on the application, where we came from and what the challenges were in this project. Then you'll see the application in action. I'll give you a short demo. You'll see how it works and what it can do. Then I'll go a bit more into the technology. I'll show you our technology stack, so all the technology that we've used. And then there are some Aurelia features that we've used in this project that I want to go a bit more in depth on. Namely bundling with the Aurelia CLI, custom elements, custom attributes, and I'll briefly explain them and then show you how we use them in our project. Finally, I'll wrap up the presentation, and at the end there's time for questions and discussion if you have any questions. So first, a little background on eFactory. So eFactory basically helps improving organizations from within by collecting feedback and knowledge from their employees. We believe that the employees in an organization know exactly how to improve the organization and how to do it. So we collect their feedback, we analyze it, and we give the results back to the organization. And we help them with the meaningful insights that they gather from that feedback. Now it's really important to have as many people as possible to fill in that survey. Our response rate is very important. So I'm just curious, who of you has ever filled in a survey or a questionnaire? I'm guessing about everyone. And who of you have ever filled in a survey by your employer, so that your company sent out? Oh, not that many. Well, if you think your company that you work for could use some insights from the employees, you can recommend eFactory to your HR department. All right. So if you've ever filled in a survey, you know that it can be very boring and tedious, especially if you have to fill out a lot of questions. So the challenge here with this project was to create a very fast and fun and easy way to fill in a questionnaire. Now, of course, eFactory has been around for about 20 years. So we started with just, paper surveys. Then we got a web application. So we already had an old survey app, but that looked like this. So that looks pretty outdated. Even 5 years ago, this would have been very outdated. So for the people that are English, so the bullet points are the questions, and there are statements like, I'm satisfied at my work, and then you can answer from strongly disagree to, well, that type of question. This must be familiar. So yeah, we really needed an upgrade, or actually we didn't upgrade it, we just created a whole new app, of course. So without further ado, I would like to show you what the new application looks like. So how it works that, so each employee in the organization gets a private link, and then when they go to that link, they have their the questionnaire, and it's anonymous. So this is what an employee might see when they open their link. So this is the homepage, where you say, hello, thank you for participating. It tells you how many questions there are. So this is a demo, this is like a showcase survey, so there's only a couple questions to showcase the functionality. An actual survey might have more questions. It stores your answers intermediately, so if you close your browser, your answers are still there when you get back later. And here's a link to a privacy statement. Some other things, so here I've used the background of beautiful Amsterdam at night, but this is customizable for each customer. So, and the logo as well, and the color scheme as well. So each customer can have their own background and have their own identity in this questionnaire. So for example, I also have a link from Killam. Already had it open here. So this is something that KLM which is one of our customers, might want to do, so to create their kind of own brand identity with the questionnaire. All right, so once you're ready, there's also a language switcher here. Let's leave it to English. When you click Get Started, it takes you to the first subject. So a questionnaire consists of subjects, and then each subject has a certain amount of questions. And click Next. And it takes me to the first question. So it's usually a statement, and then you can click one of the answers, or you can click I don't know or have no experience. So let's say click agree. All right, so what happened there is that it automatically took me to the next question, so I don't have to go to the next question myself. I can just click an answer, and it just takes me to the next card. Also, it's interesting that only one question is really central in the screen at the time. So we really focused on that one question. So if I click on an answer, it takes me to the next question. But I can also click the cards to go back, and I can also scroll on my own. And if I stop scrolling, it takes me to the closest element on the page. So in this demo survey, we included every possible way of displaying a question. So this is actually the same type of question, but it's displayed with hearts, so you can click on it, and then there's a nice little animation, and it takes you further. Usually you'd pick one of these types, so you wouldn't mix these all around in the questionnaire, but you'd pick like this one, or all hearts, or all stars, or smileys. So this is the next subject. All right, so if you want to have more specific answers, you can also do that, and then it's displayed like these buttons. So this is a question about your workload, and you can click one of the options. Well, my workload's all right. Also, the content of the questionnaire can change depending on the answers you gave earlier. So here the question is, I've experienced undesirable behavior by colleagues. Well, if you click occasionally or regularly, it creates a new question here that asks you which type of undesirable behavior you have experienced. If I click never, that question wouldn't show up. So up until now, other questions where only a single answer was possible. This question has multiple answers possible, so it doesn't automatically take me to the next question. I have to click the button here or scroll on my own. Well, luckily I haven't experienced any of these, so I'll just skip this. This question is what is known as an NPS question. So it's you can say how much you would recommend something, so from 0 to 10. We have two variants of these. This is the more formal one, where you can just pick an answer. This is a more playful one. I can drag a slider, and then a smiley pops up, and I can make it very happy or very, very sad if I give a low score. So yeah, this is yeah, that's a cool one. Another type of question where I can just type something. This is an improvement question, so I can, it asks me which things do I think I can improve in the organization, can be improved. And then depending on my answers here, it creates follow-up questions. I can also click other, type my own subjects, and then it's created here. So these are all the types of questions that you can use in this survey application. Now once you're done, you get taken to this, this submit button. It's not mandatory to fill in every question, but you have to submit it to make them final. So when I click submit, there's a nice little animation. And then I filled in my survey. So this is also responsive, so it works on tablet and mobile as well. Let's show that. Let me refresh. So it's basically, most of the questions look the same, but they're just a bit more compact. It's actually really easy to fill in on your mobile phone. It's really quick. So they look the same, except for the text. We made like a pop-up thing, because the keyboard would show up at the bottom of your screen, and then that would push the app on top, and then it would take you to the next thing. So we fixed it this way. All right, so now that you've seen the application, I want to talk a bit more about the challenges that we considered during this project. I'd like to note that the design was already created by a design agency that we often work with called United. It's called Hoeijmans now. But they created the design for us, so we already knew how it was going to work, what it looked like. So considering the design, we had the following challenges. Well, of course, the application has to render the content dynamically based on which questions you want to ask. It has to be very fast, perform well. If it's kind of buggy or laggy, people would get angry or at least frustrated and stop filling in the questionnaire. And it had to be responsive, so it has to work on all kinds of devices and platforms. So we started developing this about a little more than a year ago. And why did we pick Aurelia? Well, back then we had used Angular 1 on some projects, but we didn't like the lots of boilerplate framework stuff, and we were kind of impressed with Aurelia, how clean it was, everything. And also we wanted to try something new. We always try to use the latest technologies in projects here, so we ended up with Aurelia. We were a bit worried that we would run into problems because the Aurelia community is kind of small and there's not much on Stack Overflow and that sort of thing as opposed to, let's say, Angular. But we have a core member on our team, Erik, who organized the meetup, so we call him Erik Aurelia here. So that didn't end up being a problem. And we learned a lot about Aurelia in this project as well. So let's get a bit more into the technology. This is our technology stack. So for the front end, we used Aurelia, obviously, in combination with TypeScript. Gulp, which is already included in your Aurelia project if you create it with the CLI. SCSS as a preprocessor for CSS. And we used Visual Studio Code as our editor with the Aurelia extension that Erik created. So that was pretty cool. The backend was just an API that fetches the questionnaire data and your participant data and saves the answers and stuff. And that's just a .NET Core application created hosted in Microsoft Azure. So now I'm going to tell you a bit about some of the features that we've used and how we use them in the project. So of course you can bundle your application in various ways. You could use something like Webpack or GSPM. But we created this project with Aurelia CLI, which a couple of you are using already. And there's a bundling functionality in there as well. So we figured we'd just use that. So Aurelia bundles your application into two files, the app bundle and the vendor bundle. And it's really easy to do that with CLI. I'll just show you how our configuration for our project. So this is your Aurelia JSON file, and by default it bundles into the app bundle, which contains all your application code. And the vendor bundle might be interesting to show you some of the libraries that we've used. Well, of course, all the Aurelia things. We used TweenMax, TweenLite, sorry? I don't think I can. Maybe a bit. Control? No. No? Oh, wait. Oh, wow. So for all the animations, we used a library called GreenSock. You can Google that, GreenSock, and TweenMax and TweenLite are plugins. Scroll2 is also an animation plugin from GreenSock. Morph SVG, which we used for the smiley slider. So we basically had 10 SVGs of states, and then with Morph, it animates them very smoothly. So that was really useful. I18 Next for translations, and Hammer.js for tap and touch events on mobile. Yeah, this is your bundling configuration. If you create your project with the Aurelia CLI, it generates this build task for you. So you can just leave it as it is, and it does all these build steps for you. We created a custom build step that we've added here, Localize. Localize is a translation management tool for software developers that we use. And the Localize step, basically what it does is it fetches, or it calls the Localize API and then fetches all the translations and puts them into JSON files that we include in the bundle. So that's something that we've added here. But you can write your own stuff and add that to your build steps. So it's really simple to start bundling. You just type au build. You can also add an optional parameter to specify your environment. Well, that's optional. Just run build. So here you see this is our localized tab, and it updates all these translations. As you can see, we have a lot of languages. So now it's creating the app bundle, it's tracing all your application code. And also the libraries to create your vendor bundle. And then it should be done in a second, all right. So now basically what you can do if you want to deploy your app is you can just copy the index.html file and your script folder. And the script folder contains your app bundle and your vendor bundle. You can copy those to your deployment server, and then your app is basically running.
If you just deploy the whole script folder, you also deploy the map file.
If you deploy you saw the map file. Sorry, what was the question?
The question is, why would you want to deploy the map file to a production server?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't think we deploy that actually.
Okay,
yeah.
It said somewhere on the slide that you just take the script folder. Not really. Okay.
No, you take the index.html file, and that has a link to your vendor bundle, and that's a script folder that you have to copy as well. No, not the whole folder. No, no, sorry, yeah. Yeah, usually you can have more things in your script folder, or that was the case, but you can, the minimum that you need to copy is the index.html and the app and the vendor bundle, yes. So another way you can use bundling is to create versions, or in this case, snapshots of your application. This was a very convenient functionality for us, because we have, our customers have an organization, and that organization is divided into groups of participants, and they might want to ask different sets of questions and different versions of questions to different teams within our organization. So what we did was, we have some other software that we've developed here as well that our project managers use. And in that software, they can create the questionnaire, so they decide which questions and subjects there are in the questionnaire, and they can configure the design. And then once they're done, they can publish, as we call it, that questionnaire. And what happens at that point is that the app bundle, in the release blob, that's where we deploy the latest versions to. A blob, by the way, is blob storage, Azure Blob Storage. That's basically a way of storing files in the cloud, unstructured data such as image files or anything. And then when you publish the questionnaire, it copies that app bundle to a customer blob, and it creates these customer-specific questionnaire bundles for each version of the questionnaire. And when we do a new release, we deploy something new, those bundles that are in the customer folder stay the same. So that way we can guarantee that each participant of that questionnaire gets the same version of that app, and it doesn't break or change because of a new release. Also during this publishing process, a JSON file is generated, a questionnaire.json file, and that contains all the data about the questionnaire, so which questions there are on the questionnaire. So the next feature that I want to talk about is custom elements. Well, if you've used Aurelia even a little bit, you know what these are, so I won't go into that too much. But it's basically the way that you can divide your app into smaller reusable components. And this really appealed to us because we knew that the app had to be rendered dynamically based on content of the questionnaire. So we just create custom elements for each type of question and then use that JSON file to convert that into an object, and then we can bind all this data to all the question elements. So this is an example. So we have a question element. That's basically the cards that you saw. So that's the question element that contains business logic for things that have to do with questions. So saving answers or updating the progress bar. And then for each display type of question, we created another custom element, which we can bind data about the question and the answers to, and that way it gets displayed like this. So we created these elements for each question type, and then it renders dynamically. So that was a really cool way of using these custom elements. Final feature that I want to talk about is custom attributes. So custom attributes can be used to alter the behavior or add functionality to your DOM elements. So usually how this works is you create a custom attribute class, and you can attach that attribute to an HTML element. And usually when you use custom attributes, you want to do something with the DOM element. And the cool thing is that if you inject the global DOM element type in that class, you have access to that element in that class. So you don't have to search the DOM yourself to find that element that your attribute is attached to, but you already have it accessible as a property in your class. So the way we use attributes here is to get information from the DOM elements. As you saw in the demo, only one element can be active at the same time. So this could be a subject header or a question card or the final block with the submit button. So each of these elements that can be active and snapped to by the app, we call those scrollable. And we needed something to keep track of all these elements and their coordinates and their height, so that the app knows which element should be in the center. And if you start scrolling yourself, or if you click a button to go to the next question, it has to know how far it has to take you to the next question. So we created a scroll surface that has a list of all these elements that can be scrollable. So here I've created a scrollable custom attribute. Let me use, oh, you don't see the mouse. Anyway, so you see there, inject DOM.element, and then in my constructor there, I have this private element property, and that property contains that div element that I've used the attribute on. So in the HTML, it says scrollable, that's the custom attribute, and then I have that element inside my class. And in that attribute, I call the scroll surface to store that element. And then the scroll surface knows the coordinates and the height and can handle the snapping. All right, so let's wrap this up. So I've shown you how the application works. I've shown you some of the features, how we use them for our application. It was a really cool project to work on. It was very a lot of front-end heavy work. It was not the usual CRUD app. It was really a cool thing to work on. And we really enjoyed working with Aurelia. So we are very happy with how it turned out. It works very smooth. It performs well. We got great reactions from our customer. So we've actually had such a good experience with this project that we've actually been using Aurelia for all our projects now, basically. So I hope you got some inspiration or ideas from this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. That's it. Thank you.